Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check, test, 1, 2. Good morning, everybody. If you are registered to speak today, as a kind reminder, please make sure that the light is on before you begin speaking. It will unmute the microphone. Also, if you're at the podium, you might need to get a little bit closer to the mic to be heard. And then before you leave the podium, please push the button to mute the microphone so it doesn't pick up any unwanted audio before you leave, as I'm about to do right now.
Good morning, y'all. Welcome to the October 8th, 2025 meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It is 9:31 a.m. I am joined by my colleagues, Commissioners Gonzalez and our newest commissioner, Tanya Miller. I would love to introduce you. Do you want to say hi to the crowd?
Good morning. It's great to be back here. Oh, let me put that on. Good morning. It's great to be back at TCEQ. I think maybe the third time will be the charm.
Well, I'd also like to announce that in the history of TCEQ, there's never been an all-female board until today. So it's a very, very cool day at this agency. Tanya made it happen. I'm joined by our General Counsel, Mary Smith, and our Public Interest Counsel, Garrett Arthur. For each item that argument or discussion is allowed, we will inform parties and the public of time limits for their discussion. Registration closed at 9:30, but if you'd like to address the commission on a particular item, please either visit our registration table if you're here in person, or if you're on the webinar, email agenda@tceq.texas.gov with your name, affiliation, and the item you'd like to comment on. We will always do our absolute best to accommodate the request. For those making presentations, please wait until your presentation until I've asked you to begin speaking, and please, please, please check to make sure your line is unmuted before proceeding. And with that, Mary, first item.
Item number 1 is the consideration of the application by Valero Refining Texas for the renewal and amendment of air quality permit number 106965. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
Wonderful. Item number 1 is the renewal with amendments of an air quality permit for Valero Refining's NSR authorization for the domestic crude unit at its Corpus Christi facility. When considering hearing requests for these types of applications, the Commission follows a two-step process. First, we consider whether the hearing requestor has met procedural requirements and whether they had demonstrated that they may be affected by the proposed authorization in a manner different than the general public. If the Commission finds that a hearing requestor meets these requirements, we then determine what relevant and material issues were timely raised. For this authorization, we received timely hearing requests from Mr. Ellie McKay. Mr. McKay lives more than 5 miles from the facility and does not explain how he would be personally impacted by the authorization. Given the distance and the failure to describe the impact of the facility will have on him, I don't believe that Mr. McKay has met the requirements for demonstrating effectiveness. Therefore, I deny his hearing request and issue the permit. I've reviewed the ED's response to comments and would adopt that document as well. I'll stop and ask my colleagues what their thoughts are. Katarina?
I'm in agreement with that.
Tanya?
I'm in agreement.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion?
I move that we deny the hearing request of Ellie McKay, issue the renewal and amendment of air quality permit number 106965 as recommended by the Executive Director, and that we adopt the Executive Director's response to comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. Mary, on to number 2.
Everybody a second to switch seats.
Got it. Thank you.
Item number 2 is the consideration of the application by BL374 LLC for new TIPD's permit number WQ00164110001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
All right. Before us, we have an application for a new TIPD's permit that would discharge up to an average flow of 490,000 gallons per day of treated domestic wastewater in its final phase. We received numerous hearing requests on this matter. For hearing requests, we use the same two-part analysis I described in item number 1. Regarding effectiveness, I would find that the following requestors have satisfied the statutory and regulatory requirements to be considered an affected person: Roger Hurlbert, Patrick Seth Lewis, Keith Meister, Susan Smith, Darren Smith, Leanne Smith, Paul Smith, Ren Tedwell, Althea Turner, Emma Turner, Seth Turner, and Will Turner. Oh, beg your pardon, Susan Smart, not Susan Smith. Based on the personal interests and issues raised by these requestors and their proximity to the proposed facility and discharge route, I believe that they have shown that they may be personally affected by this application in a manner not common to the general public. I'd recommend that we deny the remaining requests because they did either not file timely comments, fail to identify a personal justiciable interest related to the proposed facility, or failed to identify members with standing to pursue a contested case in their own right. I'll stop there to see where you all have landed on effectiveness. Katarina?
I see it the same way.
Thank you. Tanya?
Agreement.
Let's move on to issues. Moving to the second part of our analysis on issues, affected persons raise relevant and material issues concerning water quality, impacts on the requestor's health and wildlife, nuisance odors, and regionalizations. These issues are within our jurisdiction to consider for a wastewater permit application, so I would recommend that we send these 4 issues to SOA. I'd also recommend denying all the requests for reconsideration. I don't believe they raise new relevant and material information for the commission to consider. Finally, I'd recommend a 180-day duration. Colleagues,
I see it the same way.
Same.
do I have a motion?
I move that we grant the hearing requests of Roger Hurlbert, Patrick Seth Lewis, Keith Meister, Susan Smart, Darren Smith, Leanne Smith, Paul Smith, Ren Tidwell, Althea Turner, Emma Turner, Seth Turner, and Will Turner. Deny all remaining hearing requests and requests for reconsideration. Refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following issues: whether the draft permit is adequately protective of water quality and the existing uses of the receiving waters in accordance with the Texas Surface Water Quality Standards, including applicable anti-degradation requirements; whether the draft permit is adequately protective of the health of the requesters and their families and wildlife; whether the draft permit adequately protects against nuisance odors in accordance with 30 Texas Administrative Code 309.13E, and whether the commission should deny or alter the terms and conditions of the draft permit based on consideration of regionalizations under Texas Water Code 26.0282 and 26.081, and set a hearing duration of 180 days from the date of the preliminary hearing until the proposal for decision is issued.
Do I have a second?
A second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. Give everyone a second, and we'll move on to item 3. Thank y'all. Ooh.
Item number 3 is the consideration of the application by Verticrete Houston LLC for issuance of air quality standard permit for concrete batch plant, registration number 176289. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
Good morning. For this item, we have a registration application for coverage under the air quality standard permit for a concrete batch plant, which would authorize the construction and operation of a specialty central mixed concrete batch plant in Fort Bend County. The commission received a number of hearing requests and requests for reconsideration. When considering the hearing requests for these type applications, the commission follows a 2-step process, as we discussed in the first 3 items of this agenda, to determine effectiveness and what issues should be referred to SOA. Additionally, for these types of applications, the legislature has directed the commission that only those persons who are actually residing in a permanent residence within 440 yards of the proposed plant may be considered an affected person. Here, Allison, Karen, and Michael Sullivan each reside within 440 yards of the proposed facility and explained in their hearing request how they would be affected by the application in a manner that is different than the general public. Therefore, I would find them to be affected persons. The other hearing requestors also reside within 440 yards of the proposed plant and filed timely hearing requests. However, they did not raise any issues in their hearing request, but merely stated their general opposition to the application and requested a hearing. Therefore, I would recommend denying their hearing requests. Although Missouri City and Air Alliance Houston also filed timely hearing requests, since they cannot actually reside in a permanent residence within 440 yards of the plant, I would not find them to be affected persons. I'll stop right here, see how Katerina landed on effectiveness.
Can support that.
Thank you. Tanya?
Agree.
Moving on to the referral of issues. In their hearing request, the Sullivans raised relevant and material issues concerning health and safety, air quality, the use and enjoyment of their property, the protectiveness of the permit of vegetation, the environment and prevention of nuisance dust conditions, and notice. These issues are within our jurisdiction in this matter, so I would recommend that we refer these issues to SOA. I'd also recommend the denial of the request for reconsideration, since they either involve issues that are going to SOA or they do not raise new and relevant and material information for the commission to consider. Finally, I'd also recommend a concurrent referral to the commission's ADR program and 180-day hearing duration. I'll stop right here. Colleagues, what are your thoughts?
Same.
Agree.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we grant the hearing requests of Allison Sullivan, Karen Sullivan, and Michael Sullivan, deny the remaining hearing requests and all requests for reconsideration, refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing concerning the following issues: whether the proposed permit will be protective of the health and safety of the requesters and their families, whether the proposed permit will negatively affect air quality, whether the proposed permit will be protective of the environment, including vegetation, whether the proposed facility will adversely affect the use and enjoyment of the requester's property, whether the proposed permit will be protective against dust emissions generated from the proposed plant, including nuisance dust emissions, and whether the applicant substantially complied with applicable notice requirements. I'd also move that we refer the matter to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently with the SOA preliminary hearing scheduling efforts, and that we specify that the maximum duration of the hearing is 180 days from the preliminary hearing to issuance of the proposal for decision.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. We are on item number 4. I'll give everyone a chance to shuffle.
Item number 4 is the consideration of the application by Formosa Plastics Corporation, Texas, for 9 amended air quality permits. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions. Those who have signed in will be noted for the record. And before beginning discussion on the item, I understand that Commissioner Miller wanted to make a statement on this one.
So I may be conflicted on this matter due to my previous work as the TCEQ Director of the Office of Air. So in an abundance of caution, I am recusing myself from this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Appreciate it. All right. Before us, we have an application for amendments to 9 air quality permits at the Formosa plant in Point Comfort. Again, with these type applications, the Commission considers a 2-step analysis. First, we must determine whether a hearing requestor is an affected person. The only hearing requestor is an organization, San Antonio Bay Estuary Waterkeeper. For groups and associations, there are additional requirements for the Commission to review. For example, to be entitled to a hearing, a group or association must identify a group member that would have standing to request a hearing in their own right, and the group's interest in the application must be germane to the organization's purpose. Waterkeeper submitted timely hearing requests and comments and identified a group member, Ms. Diane Wilson, as one that would have standing in her own right. I would grant this group's hearing requests. Waterkeeper's request explained that, in addition to her recreation near the Formosa plant, Diane Wilson had an interest in visiting the areas near Formosa's wastewater outfalls as a party to a consent decree. The request also explains that Ms. Wilson is concerned with air quality impacts, her health, and wildlife impacts as she continues to visit areas near Formosa's plant and monitor compliance with the consent decree. From my perspective, this demonstrates a particularized interest not shared by the general public and that Waterkeeper has identified a member with standing in her own right. I also find that Waterkeeper's purpose to preserve the wetlands for recreation is germane to its interest in protecting wildlife and air quality. I propose we grant Waterkeeper's hearing requests. Colleagues, I will pause and for your thoughts on effectiveness. One colleague.
I see it actually very differently. I find that Miss Wilson's not an affected person in her own right because she resides almost 20 miles from the Formosa facility, and her recreational and monitoring interests are intermittent and common to those of the general public. I also, since I don't find that she has standing in her own right, that Waterkeeper would not have met all the requirements for standing since they don't have an individual member in their own right.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the second part of our analysis on issues. Waterkeeper raised, to me, relevant and material issues regarding health, air quality, including NACs and prevention of significant deterioration, nuisance conditions, cumulative impacts, wildlife, adequacy of air quality analysis, BACT, adequate of emissions calculation methodologies, monitoring and reporting requirements, and availability of the application. These issues are within our jurisdiction to consider for an air quality permit, so I would recommend that we send these to SOA. I'd recommend a concurrent referral to TCEQ's ADR program and a 100-day hearing duration. To get back to effectiveness, I believe the consent decree was the one that steered me to find that they were affected. So just putting that in the record. Katerina?
My analysis wouldn't reach the issue since I didn't find they have standing. So.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. We will be back at, well, we'll take a 12-minute, 10 o'clock. Sorry, we're waiting on our counsel. All right, apologies for the delay. This meeting is called back to order. The time is 10:08 a.m. Katerina, what if we meet in the middle and send this case to SOA for an effectiveness determination?
I actually just feel that further just kicks the can down the road. So I think, given our differing opinions on whether Diane Wilson has standing in her own right in this matter, I would recommend that we continue this matter and notify the parties that the commission will be conducting fact-finding to get more information about the effectiveness claim.
Okay.
And so if we could just bring it back and do oral argument.
That's fine. Do you have a motion?
Yes, I move that we continue this matter to the November 5th agenda and notify the parties by letter, informing them of the procedures for the commission's fact-finding hearing on effectiveness in this matter.
I second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. Right, we are on item number 5, y'all.
Item number 5 is the consideration of the Office of Public Interest Counsel's 2025 annual report.
And I was going to actually move that we continue this one to the November 5th agenda as well.
What's the rationale?
Given that we had discussions about the role of the Public Interest Council, just maybe a little more time so that if there's things that we want to act on in the report, we can do that.
Yep,
more
that's-
fully informed.
That is fair. We will continue this item to the November 5th
Agenda, yes.
agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we continue the consideration of OPIC's 2025 annual report to the November 5th, 2025 agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, y'all. We are in the enforcement docket. Thank y'all.
Okay, that brings us to our enforcement docket, which are items 6 through 18, and the Executive Director staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Megan Hamilton of the Enforcement Division, and with me today are Amy Sedemeyer, also of the Enforcement Division, and Gitanjali Yadav of the Litigation Division, representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 6 through 18. The total assessed administrative penalties are $598,246, with $60,574 deferred, $123,775 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $334,097 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan. Do we have anyone signed up on these items, Mary?
No one signed in on any of these today.
OPIC?
Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Garrett Arthur, TCEQ Public Interest Counsel. OPIC has reviewed each of these enforcement items, and we support approval of all the orders presented by ED staff.
Thanks, Garrett. I appreciate all the work that's gone into bringing these orders before the commission, as always. I'm ready to move forward with adopting all of them. Colleagues?
Same.
Same.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt items 6 through 18 as recommended today by the Executive Director.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. We will head on to number 19. Give everyone time to move.
Item number 19 is the consideration for publication of and hearing on proposed amended section 116.605 for new construction or modification for control of air pollution by permits for new construction or modification and corresponding revisions to the state implementation plan. The executive director's staff is here to present this item.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I'm David Munzenmeyer with the Air Permits Division. With me, I have Bonnie Everidge, also of Air Permits Division, and Elizabeth Black with the Environmental Law Division. For your consideration today is a proposal for the publication of and hearing on an amendment to 116.605 of 30 Texas Administrative Code 116, Control of Air Pollution for permits for new construction or modification. The proposed rulemaking will implement the requirements of Senate Bill 763 and 2351 from the 89th regular legislative session. The proposed rulemaking would add language under new paragraph D4 requiring a protectiveness review of the air quality standard permit for concrete batch plants at least once every 8 years, and add new provisions F1 and F2 that would apply when the Commission issues amendments to a standard air quality standard permit for concrete batch plants or air quality standard permit for concrete batch plant with enhanced controls. These provisions would establish criteria where the Commission may require operators of permanent facilities who have not begun construction and have requested an extension to update the construction plans to meet the new standard permit, the new standards of the amended standard permit. Remaining paragraphs under 116.605 would be relettered or renumbered for administrative consistency. Staff also respectfully requests permission to make non-substantive changes to comply with Texas Register requirements. Thank you, and we're available to answer questions.
Thank you, David. Do we have anyone signed up on this item?
No one is signed in on this item.
Garrett?
Hi. Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and the Executive Directors, attorneys, and staff. For the record, I'm Sheldon Wayne with the Office of Public Interest Counsel. OPIC has reviewed this proposed rulemaking and agrees with the Executive Director that it should proceed forward for publication and the taking of public comment. We understand that this proposal is necessary to implement recently passed statutory directives from the 89th legislative session. OPIC plans to attend the November 20th public hearing for this rule proposal and further intends to monitor public comments that the Commission receives as this process unfolds. While this rulemaking is still in its early stages, we'd like to say that we are very supportive of the proposal. We believe that the public will appreciate and benefit from consistently scheduled periodic reevaluation and, as necessary, update of the protectiveness review that undergirds the standard permit for concrete batch plants. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Sheldon. I've reviewed the backup material on this rulemaking proposal and want to thank staff for their work on this. There was lots of eyes on these bills this session. The rulemaking is an extremely straightforward legislative implementation, and I would support moving forward with the publication. Katarina?
I agree, and I also appreciate staying true to the legislation.
Absolutely. Tanya?
In agreement.
Do I have a second, or do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the publication of and hearing on proposed amended section 116.605 of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 116, Control of Air Pollution by Permits for New Construction or Modification, and corresponding revisions to the state implementation plan as recommended by the Executive Director.
Now do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to our public comment session, and the Commission will receive comments from the public on matters within the jurisdiction of the TCEQ in accordance with Texas Water Code, Section 5.112. We'll caution the public that the Commission cannot receive comment on pending permit matters or other contested cases like enforcement matters or enforcement concerns. These specific cases are subject to a prohibition found in the Texas Government Code, which doesn't allow the Commission to hear these types of comments without notice and an opportunity for the other parties involved to hear and respond to those comments. So Given that caution, in the interest of time, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each with a total time for public comment limited to 1 hour. Please also note the Commission's discussion of subjects for which public notice has not been given is limited to statements of specific factual responses and recitation of existing policy. And with that, we have quite a few people signed in today. So we'll begin with Joseph Robertson, who I believe is virtual.
Mr. Robertson, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my concerns. My name is Joseph Robertson. I have lived in Bastrop County for 26 years. We are located approximately 6 miles south of the Florida Immigration Facility. I was in the water and wastewater treatment industry for 40 years. 22 years I worked in the private sector for Stevens Environmental. It manufactured odor, pollution control, database technology, including tactile surgery, biology, quality control.
Mr. Robertson, we can't understand what you're saying because the connection is very poor. Do you want to check your connection, maybe call back in a second?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Mr. Robinson, are you there? Okay, I think he's trying again.
Would you like to go to the next person, and we'll circle back? If Mr. Robertson would call back in, we'll circle back to him. The next person on my list is Corbett Jones, and my list indicates he's in person.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Jones.
Hello, how's it going? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Pop and Commissioners Gonzalez and Miller for hearing our concerns about Darling Ingredients today. Additionally, I'd like to thank TCEQ for providing an avenue for Texans to submit complaints and have their voices heard. My name is Corbett Jones, resident of Elgin, Bastrop County. I'm not here to describe what Darling Ingredients is doing to our community.
Excuse me, I'm going to have to interrupt. They can't hear comments on specific facilities or specific enforcement matters, like specific complaints, because of that prohibition in the government code. So your comments have to be about general policy matters or sort of general, more general. They can't be specific to a facility or a pending permit.
I guess my general comment would be that I wish I could speak on this facility right now because there's ongoing odor issues in our community and pollution issues that are going unchecked by your commission. Yeah. But thank you.
Thank you.
The next person on my list is Courtney Kellogg, who's virtual.
Ms. Kellogg, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I guess I'm going to have to quickly learn to rephrase what I had to present to you, given the new information of not being able to respond to any particular company, as Mr. Jones just also expressed. So off the cuff here, I have legit concerns about the air quality policy approach in Bastrop County. What is happening in Bastrop County policy is that our air control is not being, Texas law is not being accommodated. It is being, well, for the people, I guess it seems to be being accommodated to businesses. And it's letting businesses who are not following Texas law continue to avoid compliance for years on end. I just don't understand how this can happen at the expense of an entire county. and it happens at the health and safety of an entire county. It happens at the expense of our property values, our enjoyment to property. We can't go outside. Our kids can't go outside on these times. I would like to advocate that TCEQ policy includes swifter action on companies that are not in compliance. 2 years into compliance, 10 years into non-compliance is too long for a community to have issues that are clear to have health issues for our family and our community. So I would like TCEQ to consider policy moving forward that doesn't just find on one notice of violation enforcement small amount for, let's say, $1 billion company who can easily pay $40,000 but still not come into compliance 2 years later, and that every day that they don't come into compliance would be another notice of violation, because every day that a community smells this odor that is such a nuance, that causes headaches, that causes nausea, that causes us to cancel events in our community, is, in my opinion, another offense. And so I would like to see TCEQ consider legislation that includes notices of violation, enforcement, fines that would convince a company, $1 billion company, to consider. Yeah.
Ms. Kellogg, I'll give you a minute to finish your comments.
Yeah. Sorry, it was wrapped up real nice and tight before I couldn't specific anything. So I apologize. In close, I would like, short of begging this commission to consider pulling permits for companies that we know have billion-dollar, drag-out efforts that are not following Texas environmental quality laws for the interest of the county that it affects, if that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We're noting your concerns. Mary?
The next person I have on the list is Joy Kosnowski, also an in person. I hope I got the last name right. Sorry if I didn't.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Joy Kosnowski. Last time I was here was July 9th. While I wasn't here physically, I called in virtually. I represent the city of Elgin. I'm on Elgin City Council. And like most of us who took the time to register today, we are all changing our comments on the fly. So I appreciate you just bearing with me while I get this out. So let's see, it's been 90 days since I spoke to y'all. Just facts, there's been over 250 complaints filed. We know that despite the compliance dates being incorporated into a legally binding agreement that TCEQ has drafted, the agency often grants extensions of compliance deadlines in favor of industry and in disservice to residents like me and the countless other people who are calling in today to get your attention. We also know the agency's enforcement policy refuses to send a polluter back to enforcement for the same violation during what it considers the compliance period, even if that period has been arbitrarily extended by the agency staff. We also know that TCEQ does have the authority to both change its enforcement policy and initiate escalated enforcement actions against companies who are not adhering to their violations, including imposing maximum penalty per violation per day, and if necessary, referral to the Office of the Attorney General. Y'all are our last hope. TCEQ is the only agency with the teeth to tell industries who are consistently not complying by their violation to do something. Had 80 people at a town hall from all over Bastrop County complaining about this. This has been going on for years, and our quality of life is being ruined. We can't go outside. We can't use our parks. We can't use our properties, all because companies who have been given violations, multiple violations, do not adhere to the rules. So if you want me to state my issues in a policy, I will say create policies and then enforce those policies and those rules, because it's not being enforced. It's been 90 days, and it still smells in Bastrop County. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Appreciate your comments.
Mary,
Would you like to try to go back to Joseph Robertson?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Robinson, are you there?
Okay. Let's go to Stephen Ketberth.
Mr. Kepner?
Try Daniel Atkins.
Mr. Atkins, are you online?
Errol Summerlin.
Mr. Summerlin, I know you're there.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
We sure can. All right. Well, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Errol Summerlin, and I reside in Salisbury, Maryland. I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Miller on her appointment. For your information, I was a 40-year resident of Portland, Texas, and am still engaged in efforts to curb the industrial build-out in the coastal bend of Texas as a member of CAPE, the Coastal Alliance to Protect Our Environment. In August, I spoke to you about medical research and showed that the proximity of one's residence to petrochemical plants was positively associated with the prevalence of respiratory disease and asthma in children, and that petrochemical plants should not be built within 20 miles of residential areas. I suggested you find a way to engage the local medical community in the permitting process to better inform you on the cumulative impacts of emissions from multiple industries and the health consequences of adding more. As both Senate and House committees of the Texas legislature conduct hearings on developing interim charges for the next legislative session, I'd like to ask you to take the lead in advocating for salinity studies in the bays and estuaries up and down the Texas Gulf Coast. You know well the critical state of water supplies in the state, and there is a lot of talk about marine desalination as a way to address current and future water demand. All along the Gulf Coast, from Galveston Bay to Brownsville, private and public entities are looking for the coastal land to build these facilities with an eye toward intake and discharge within base systems to avoid the expense of building the pipelines into the deep waters of the Gulf. This poses serious consequences to our bays and estuaries, which are vital to the circle of life for aquatic and aquatic-dependent species. Salinity studies will better inform the impact of these intakes and discharges of brine into the systems. In my 1968 edition of Black's Law Dictionary, I can't find the definition of the term water keeper. But a common definition is a person responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of a body of water. Today, many folks associate water keepers as grassroots organizations that fight for clean water to protect their communities, rivers, and streams from pollution. May I suggest you are the people's water keepers? Your appointment to this commission empowers you to represent communities across the state, protecting our rivers, streams, waterways, wetlands, estuaries, and bays. As these interim hearings are being held, you have the opportunity to advance this protection by asking the legislature to fund these and other vital studies to protect our coast. Thank you very much for your time today. I do want to point out that I could hear Mr. Robertson just fine, at least from my perspective. I understand y'all probably couldn't hear. But thank you again, and y'all have a good day.
Appreciate your comments.
Okay, I have word now that Joseph Robertson's back online, so should we try Joseph Robertson?
Mr. Robinson, are you back online?
I am.
Wonderful.
Is this better?
It is so much better. Thank you.
It was on my end, and I apologize.
No worries.
I'd like to start. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my concerns. My name is Joseph Robertson. I've lived in Bastrop County for 26 years. We're located approximately 6 miles directly south of the Darling Ingredients facility. I was in the water and wastewater treatment industry for 40 years. 23 years I worked in the private sector for Stevens and
I'm
Barnett.
sorry to interrupt, but I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but we can't talk about specific items or specific concerns about specific facilities during this because of the Texas government code's prohibition. You can talk to the commission generally about, environmental policy concerns or general enforcement concerns, but not about specific facilities or what specific facilities are doing or how specific facilities are, being punished or not being punished.
I understand. Okay, thank you. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay, my experience is with odor erosion control for both the private and municipal facilities. I've worked on projects at the Blue Plains wastewater treatment plant outside of Washington, D.C.
You cannot talk about Garland. Only talk about the state.
My experience is with odor erosion control of both the private and municipal industries. I've worked on projects outside the Blue Plains wastewater treatment plant outside Washington, D.C. Blue Plains is the largest wastewater treatment plant in the world. In my 40 years of working in industry, I have never smelled anything that bad at a distance of 11 miles. In fact, I don't remember any facility at a distance of 11 miles smelling that bad.
Again, we can't really be talking about specific facilities, so you need to.
Then basically, I'll just, mine is in reference to this particular facility, my experience, and what this community is going through, and hopefully TCEQ can resolve the issue and can be addressed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. I'm going to go back to Mr. Atkins.
Let's try Daniel Atkins again.
Mr. Atkins?
Let's try Stephen Cutbirth again.
Mr. Kepner?
Hey, you can hear me now?
Will you identify yourself, please?
Yes, this is Preston Stephen Cutbirth. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, we're here. Let's go. Okay. Good morning, commissioners. Thanks for letting me share a few thoughts. My name is Stephen Cutbirth, and this is my second time addressing all of you. I provided public comment at the July 9th commission meeting as well. At that time, I spoke as a lifelong Texan, a local business owner in Bastrop County, and most importantly, a father of 4 children affected by ongoing odor issues in our county. Today, I'd like to speak as an Elgin Economic Development Corporation board member and an Elgin Chamber of Commerce board member. This odor is negatively affecting our reputation with the emissions that are being caused.
So we can't talk about, again, excuse me, Mr. Cutbirth, we can't talk about specific facilities or specific facilities or specific concerns about specific facilities. You can talk about general concerns or general policy of the commission, but not talk about specific facilities.
So my concern is with odor being caused in Bastrop County. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's actively creating a negative incentive for our local economy. It's affecting our local businesses, and it's inhibiting our ability to attract additional business to the area. It really is impacting our ability to thrive economically. which is a problem. I mean, it affects our families, it affects our businesses. I think it's disappointing that many of us have been prepared to come and speak this morning and put in quite a bit of work, and in the end, you guys are not allowing us to speak publicly, which I think is wrong.
No,
But since I have to adjust my words, I will say that this is not just about a bad smell. Generally, from a policy perspective, it's about fairness, accountability, and dignity. Small town Texans should not be treated as collateral damage. At the end of the day, our right to breathe is worth more than, I can't say a name, so I'll stop there. The TCEQ is the only agency that really has this to shut down situations that are affecting the individuals in our community. And really, it's up to you guys to do that. So, I did have a little more of a prepared presentation, but I had to adjust it. But I will just end with, I urge the TCEQ to enforce the rules that were created, hold communities in high regard, and prioritize the health and well-being of those of us who live here. We're really not asking for anything special. We're just asking for the laws to be upheld, and our families to be protected, and our local business communities to be prioritized. So thanks for your time, and please do take action on this.
Thank you for your comments. And I'd note that we are not preventing anyone from speaking. The government code tells us what you can speak to. Thank you.
We have Adrian Shelley in person.
Good morning, Commissioners. Adrian Shelley. I'm the Texas Director of Public Citizen. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. We met many of the folks who are here today and are here virtually at the July 9th meeting of the Commission when they spoke. We helped them in September to organize a town hall meeting in Elgin.
If we're going to talk about, just a reminder, if we're going to be talking about that specific facility, you need to alter the comments to something policy-wise and not be talking about that specific facility.
Yeah, so I haven't said anything about a specific facility. So
you're talking about specific meetings.
Okay,
and
so moving on to general policy matters. When enforcement processes take months or years, that's a time period during which a community isn't getting relief from the concerns that it has. When the agency refuses to bring new actions against violations that are similar in character to violations that are pending enforcement, that's another way that the community fails to get relief from the agency. When the agency has compliance deadlines for agreed orders that it has entered and it allows extensions of those deadlines, or it simply doesn't, ensure compliance by the agreed to date, those are weeks and months that go by with a community that's not getting relief from the problem that it faces. These are policies that the agency is setting. The agency is making the decision to let these unspecified actions go on for months or years. And during all of that time, you have a community that just isn't getting relief from the problems that it's facing. So we just want to point that out, right? The power is with y'all. You guys are writing these orders. Companies are signing these orders. They've got legally enforceable dates in them, and it is up to you all to ensure that those dates are met. There are larger fine options available to you. You could even suspend the permit for a facility that is legally out of compliance with an order that you and it signed. So, communities that are frustrated, communities that feel like their voice is being silenced, whether or not you agree that it is, probably feel that way because of policies and decisions about timing and about enforcement that the agency is making and that the agency has the ability to change. You don't need new legislation for you to enforce the agreed orders that you sign within the times that you agree to. You all have the authority to do that. And I think that a lot of the people that are here today and that will be here in the future would agree that there is more that the agency could do, and there might not be so much frustration in the room if there was a feeling that the agency was doing everything that it had the legal authority to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate your comments.
Michael Matthew.
Good morning, Mr. Matthew.
Good morning. I, like a lot of the guys here, am going to have to change things up quite a bit. But I did want to actually start out by saying how cool it is, what you guys said in the morning of being an all-women-led commission. I know that when strong women are in charge, they get stuff done. So I was really excited to hear that and see that. So I think that is really cool.
Thank you.
I also, because I'm going to have some extra time because I wrote down all this stuff I can't really talk about, I do want to say that I feel like we're extremely blessed to live in the United States, specifically live in Texas, and have access to the TCEQ and people like you that are advocates for us in the community, for our voice. And I know that you guys are passionate. I can hear by what has gone on in this meeting itself that you guys are passionate about in protecting the environment. And that's what this is all about. This is what we're asking for as citizens. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to read the definition of a public nuisance. A legal public nuisance is an act or condition that is unreasonably interferes with the right of common general public affecting health, safety, morals, and welfare of an entire community or neighborhood, and it goes on. I think that it's fair to say that we are in a state right now when any pollution is documented and is crystal clear. We're in a state right now where it absolutely justifies defining something as a public nuisance. So that's what I'm specifically asking for, is that the TCEQ will move forward in legally defining any violation of environmental policies that have been set by the TCEQ or by the state of Texas as a public nuisance legally. So I'm specifically asking for that. I would also ask that it become crystal clear when it's appropriate for us as citizens to come forward and have discussions with full disclosure, whether all parties need to be involved, whatever needs to happen, we need to know how to make that happen so that we can truly speak on specific facts that we have gathered over the several years of being a Texas property owner and property taxpayer, and being absolutely terrified and by the.
Thank you.
What I would like to do to spend the rest of my time is tell a personal story about how something like this has affected my life. My wife and I are foster parents. And we've been blessed with the opportunity to adopt 2 of the kids out of the foster system. And as some of you may know, that foster kids are a challenge. And along with neglect comes developmental challenges. Last year.
Mr. Matthew, you're actually out of time, but I'm going to extend your time.
Thank you.
Finish your story, please.
I'll wrap it up quickly.
Yeah.
Last year, I was blessed with the opportunity to be in the pool with my wife and my 7-year-old adopted daughter, who finally got over her fear of swimming. 7-year-old, that's way too old to be not swimming with somebody who owns a pool. It's been part of her life. We've been working with her every day in the summer to build up the confidence to do this. And I cannot emphasize how big a deal this was for her and for our family, for my wife and I, the tears of joy that came as this accomplishment happened. Not minutes after we were all hugging, standing in the pool, we were terrified to smell the horrible stench coming. My daughter ran into the house crying, and I was so angry. I'm not an angry person. I was just broken. My wife and I were broken by this experience, and this was not the only time. I have stopped running. I can't go outside. I'm throwing up in my mouth as I'm trying to run. My family who lives there they're not going outside and exercising because of this. I cannot tell you the mental stress that something like this can put on somebody's life. And I am not the only one. There's thousands of us. There's been thousands of formal complaints. We've done number of times the odor logs. We've done everything that we've been asked to do. And I'm just asking, just as a personal favor, if there's anything at all that we can do. I know that you guys your hands are bound, or your hands are tied with this legal situation. Please let us know if there's anything at all that we can do to emphasize the importance and the effect that this is having on our health, not only our mental health, but our physical health and an ability and right to breathe fresh air.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being foster parents. Those kids are really blessed.
Thank you.
Jake Carter, virtual.
Mr. Carter?
It sounds like he's on the webinar and unmuted, but we're having trouble hearing him. So let's move on to the next person. Alex Casas.
Virtual.
Mr. Casas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, Ms.
Sorry.
Yes, yes. Hello, my name is Alex Casas, and I am a resident of McDade, Texas, in Bastrop County. I am a mother, I am a small business owner, and I've spent more than 12 years working in the end-of-life and funeral industry. So quality of life and dignity in life and death is something I speak about and advocate for regularly. Because of my professional background, I am deeply familiar with the odors of decomposition and formaldehyde. And I can say without hesitation that these are the same odors expelling from this ongoing issue and odors that travel for miles.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we can't be talking about specific facilities, concerns about specific facilities or specific cases. You can, during this time, the commission can receive comments about the general policy of the agency, but not specific matters that might be contested or under enforcement right now or being investigated.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Again, we're just bringing this to your attention because we, as citizens of Bastrop County, deserve accountability. And that is what the TCEQ is set up for, is to make sure that the promises made are the promises kept. And we're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for your enforcement of the law and complying with those agreed orders. There has been a lot of tribulation that has come from this. And really, we're just asking for you to do what's right. We're asking for beyond we're not asking for more than what is required. We're really asking for the law and order for protection and for justice. We know that despite the compliance dates being incorporated into a legally binding agreement that the agency itself drafted, the agency often grants extensions of compliance deadlines in favor of industry and in disservice to residents like all of us here today. We also know that the agency's enforcement policy refuses to send a polluter back to enforcement for the same violation during what it considers the compliance period, even if that period has been arbitrarily extended by agency staff. But we also know that TCEQ does have the authority to both change its enforcement policy and initiate escalated enforcement action against companies today. This includes imposing the maximum penalty per violation per day, and if necessary, referral to the OAG. This is something that, again, we deserve as a community. We deserve clean air, we deserve dignity, we deserve accountability, and we are simply asking for you to do what is right, to put people over profit and enforce the standards that exist to protect us all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, we'll go to Dante Alvarez.
It might be helpful if you reiterate before the speakers, because I feel like maybe they missed it at the beginning and maybe aren't tuning in to hear the other comments, and that it is a government code provision. I'm
happy to reiterate that again. Again, for all of the commenters in person and online, the Texas Government Code, Section 2001-061 prohibits the commissioners from discussing specific cases that might be coming to them, coming before them to make a decision on. Commonly, these are applications for permits or contested matters like enforcement cases. So like issues where there's going to be, where there are complaints about odors or complaints about how a facility is or isn't complying with an order that the commission has issued. Those are all concerns that could come back before the commission as a decision maker. And under this Texas Government Code provision, the commission isn't allowed to hear what parties are saying unless all of the parties are here and present to respond to the comments or discuss the comments. And so when we interrupt you because you're talking about a specific facility, it's because we're trying to comply with that law and make sure that all of the parties have an equal opportunity to be present when there is a situation where there are complaints and where people have concerns about that specific facility. So this portion of our public comment session is here for you to express concerns about general policies that the commission might have, and to the extent that your comments, can be general and discuss, policies, policy concerns, some general, a general concern about the enforcement policy of the commission, that's probably within the bounds of what we can hear at this point in the meeting. But again, specific contested items, specific enforcement cases, specific concerns about your community or a specific facility in your community, really they can't hear because of this government code provision.
And I think it's a really important point. It's not that we don't want to hear from the public, but all of us are lawyers. We all have legal and ethical obligations that exist even outside of the government code, and we just cannot have ex parte communications.
Yeah, appreciate that. And for reference, for those who are listening, the Texas Government Code is Section 2001.061. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll go to Dante Alvarez.
Dante?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you speak a little louder, but we can hear you.
Sure. 1 moment here. How about now? Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Dante Alvarez. I live in, my wife and I live in Bastrop County, specifically in the city of Bastrop. I understand, like a lot of people here today, I was going to voice certain concerns, right? I totally understand that the protections that the state of Texas has for the multi-billion-dollar company, right? But anyway, my concern is twofold. So one is the actual enforcement of penalties that TCEQ, performs on regulated entities. It seems that there's a lot of leeway that's being given to them when there is no real need to do so, considering their size, considering the nature of their business. But the other one specifically is when you all send your investigators, or and investigators might not be the correct term, the folks that go out and see about these complaints, right? My understanding is that their office hours and when they perform their work is regular business hours, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. However, there may or may not be facilities out there, not necessarily within the county of Bastrop, that have gotten wise to this and perform their actions after hours and on weekends and on holidays, so that, well, no one can, if no one sees a problem, then there is no problem, right? So I'm just asking for maybe extending their work hours to something beyond normal working days, normal working hours for these investigators. I know that you all have the emergency numbers and whatnot, but to maybe expand on the folks that actually go out and see and investigate these matters and potentially staff them 24/7 for this, because it is a real thing that is, I'm sure, happening across the state of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Appreciate your comments.
We have Annie Spade in person.
Annie, it's nice to see you again.
Yes, it's good to be here. It's far over here for me. Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. I am Annie Spade, and I reside in eastern Hays County. I've lived on an acre and a half there for 30 years. I'm grandmother of 5 who also reside in Hays County. Wow, just listening to the other people, thankfully we do not have the challenges these other areas of Texas have yet out in Hays County, but I just want to fill you in on some of the efforts we have going on out there to build a vibrant ecology in our rapidly growing area. I recently completed the Texas Master Naturalist program that includes substantial training and volunteer hours. In that capacity, I joined the Hays County Chapter's HELM team, that is Habitat Enhancing Land Management. And I've been honored to visit properties in Hays County, consulting with private and public land managers on practices for managing water flow when we do get rain, so the water can support plant life, rebuild soil, mitigate flood, and replenish our aquifers. That sounds like a tall order. But I've been amazed to learn and see for myself how such techniques really work. Last Saturday, I distributed coloring books at the 1-year anniversary celebration for Patriots Hall. As you may know, Austin is the #1 place in the U.S. for veterans to come and live and work. The hall is a beautiful facility recently completed on 10 acres right off of 290 east of Dripping Springs, Entirely built through donations, it facilitates community building and support for our veterans. Already, they have a thriving garden of native plants and vegetables tended by veterans and volunteers. Produce from the small but prolific garden has been available for veterans all summer long. And I was delighted to see veterans' children enjoying the newly opened playground there as well. Patriots asked us for a HELM visit for their undeveloped acreage a few months ago. The intent is to nurture a healthy and healing ecology right off of 290 to attract and support a wide range of native plants and animals for the public to enjoy. As you may know, Dripping Springs, Shield Ranch, and many other places in my area are leading the way in creating a dark sky corridor. It is important to human health for us to experience darkness at night. Many birds and animals, too, depend on darkness to thrive. This is another Master Naturalist focal area where I've been excited to participate in special training to help residents, as well as businesses, understand best exterior lighting practices. I thank you for your kind attention this morning. I understand that mitigating water flow and attending to better lighting practices is a bit outside of your jurisdiction at present. However, I encourage you to work in the work you are doing, which is absolutely supportive of these efforts. Sorry to go a little bit over.
You're fine, Annie. Congratulations on the Master Naturalist certification. That is wonderful. I have a question about the Patriots Hall. Is it Could we come visit Patriots Hall? Is it open to the public?
They have some opportunities, yes, and they would welcome. It's just so heartening. I don't know that I've ever seen a more beautiful facility than what they built. It's so healing and nurturing to go in there. So,
I would love to come visit.
yeah, please do. We welcome you.
Thank you, Annie.
Okay, Anna Rao.
Good morning, Ms. Rao.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your time this morning. My name is Anna Rao. I am a resident of Elgin, Texas, in Bastrop County. I'm here to urge TCEQ to strengthen its enforcement approach when agreed orders fail to produce compliance. When violations continue after penalties are assessed, immediate additional enforcement is necessary. Taking the same actions and expecting different results is untenable. We are discussing issues of regulatory compliance, but they are also issues of protecting the environment, communities, and the values that I see on the posters in this room. Many industries perform valuable services, but this should not come at the cost of forcing hazardous or wasteland conditions on surrounding communities. Some operations are also inherently very challenging. However, large multinational companies with billion-dollar market caps have the resources to operate within state guidelines. Companies of significant scale should excel at compliance and nuisance control. Excellence in compliance should be necessary for operations and growth of scale, unless they find ways to bend the rules or are given a pass for trying. We urge TCEQ to escalate enforcement when initial measures fail to achieve compliance. Texas and Texans should not be collateral damage for big business. We also want to take care of Texas. And that's the summary of what I had planned to say, but I would also just like to ask for the support of TCEQ in finding a way to foster a productive discourse that doesn't violate the code. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Okay, I think I've got a couple here that I'm going to go back to. I understand from the chief clerk that Daniel Atkins is, they're not seeing him online. The other person that I had to circle back to is Jake Carter.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Well, like I said, good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. My name is Jay Carter, and I am a resident of the city of Elgin, Bastrop County. And I'm simply going to follow up this morning what others have said, especially Ms. Kasnowski and Mr. Cutler, and this will be brief. Today, we only ask that you conduct more frequent and unannounced inspections of any infringing facilities, insist on a clear and enforceable plan from those infringing facilities, levy significant fines and penalties for continued violations, and explore all possible legal avenues to ensure compliance, including potential permit revocation if necessary. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you for serving, and I also think it's very cool to have a woman-led and woman-staffed board in the state of Texas. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Okay, that's the end of the list that I have for public comment.
All right. The commission is going in to closed session. Which room are we?
Oh, here. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll move on. So items 21 through 24 are for closed session, and we're meeting in closed session in room 4222 in building F. What time would you like to?
Let's do 11:20.
At 11:20 approximately, and that's as permitted by the Open Meetings Act, including Texas Government Code sections 551, 071, and 074, to take up and consider matters that are matters pursuant to items 21 through 24 as posted and noticed.
This meeting stands in recess.
The commission, okay. The commission met in room 4222 of Building F for closed session from 11:29 until 11:40 a.m. on item numbers 23 and 24 as posted and noticed pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551074. No action was taken. This agenda stands adjourned, and the time is 11:56.